I was informed about the type of audience I would have this evening. And broadly, my sense is there are three types of you. Just to get a sense of who you are. And good thing is we have a smaller audience, so we can make it more interactive. For the next 40 minutes, I'll talk to you about some experiences which are very personal and part of my professional career. And then we'll make it interactive. But broadly, there are three types of folks in this audience. And you can identify to each one of them or whatever. You could be also somewhere in the middle. One who has tried a new idea and has failed. Inside the company, inside the team you are, or outside. And the second one who says, I have an idea, but how do I go about doing it? First time, how do I go about doing it? Yeah? How do I get support? How do I get some mentorship? And the third is, I don't know what the hell are you talking about. I don't even have an idea in the first place. So there are three types of you. I'm sure you're trying to bucket yourself. Don't sweat too much over it. But the fact is, I'll address all three of you. So if you've had an idea and you try to make it work, and your boss said, what is this? You didn't get support, got shot down. Second is, yes, it worked. But how do I take my new idea out? I haven't tried this before. And third is, let me figure out if I can get an idea in the first place. Yeah? So my effort will be to share with you whatever learnings I've gone through. And for the next half an hour, treat me like a fellow student. Have healthy disrespect for my 20 years. Doesn't matter squat, because let's face it, all of us have experienced a cell phone at the same time. You are experienced in using a cell phone for 10 years. I'm also experienced in using a cell phone for 10 years. So age and years of experience, to some extent, are sort of irrelevant for our discussion. So just to give you a quick backdrop of some of my experiences, and they say that you learn from failures more and more. So I've learned from my failures a lot more than clearly from my success. On the right-hand column, you'll see a lot of lucky, where I got lucky. And on the left-hand side, you'll see areas where I've been a failure, defined by the society and defined by all of us around me. So I didn't crack the IIT JEE. In fact, out of the 118 students in my class of PCM, physics, chemistry, mathematics, I was one of the 3 guys who didn't make it to any engineering course. And including the ones whose parents sort of put money in donation colleges, but my parents felt there was no need, there was no point. So there were 3 or 4 of us who left behind the entire PCM batch from the same school in Ranchi as Mahendra Singh Dhoni. So DAV Shamli. This is way back when Ranchi was part of Bihar and not Jharkhand, which is now the capital city. Do I know Dhoni? Yes. Have I met him a few times? You bet. And we have a custom that you meet your senior, you call them sir. So it's good to always get that respect. It doesn't matter where you are. But coming back to more mundane things, I didn't do my MBA. And I have a history of a failed startup, and a startup which was successful, and a startup which is currently work in progress. So Octane is that startup work in progress. Yeah? I'm not married as yet, so I'm a failure from my mom's perspective. I'm not settled. So you can imagine the kind of pressure I have to go through with the Auntie G network working overtime to always get you set up. And the last one, I still don't understand financials. I don't understand how to read balance sheets. I don't understand how to read profit and loss statements, though I'm supposed to read them. But I am usually a failure at that as well, even now. So it's easy to fool me if it's about numbers. On the right-hand side, though, been lucky to be in right place at the right time. I have worked for very large companies. I've been part of a startup in Silicon Valley. I worked for product management teams in Oracle in Redwood Shores, which is the corporate headquarters globally. I've been part of the early team members of a company called Siebel Systems. I don't know if you've heard about Siebel Systems. Sort of early pioneers for CRM. And in all of those roles, I was part of product management. I don't know how to code, but I can tell you how an API should be designed. Most of you are engineers, I believe, here. So you would understand, I can definitely draw an amazing entity relationship diagram. But I don't know how to code. So I'm a product designer / salesperson / marketeer / entrepreneur. And my first company was when I was 16 and in Ranchi. And we felt we knew English, so we could teach the local traders a thing or two. So we would make brochures, nice collateral in English, and charge them premium, we forgot that we had to also recover money from them. So when four of those shops folded, the owners ran away. We were stuck with money we owed people, but we were not going to get funded. So learned cash flow. Getting money into the system is equally important. Second startup was when I moved to London from Bangalore to 2004. And that one was a success. And that was an incubated company from a larger company I joined. I worked for them for some time, and I had an idea. And I went to the CEO, and I said, hey, I have an idea here. And he said, so what do you want to do? Now imagine, I'm that time in my early 30s, living in central London in a very nice pad. For some of you who play cricket, I was stone's throw from Lord's Cricket Stadium. And I had a nice Series 5 company car. So leaving all of that and starting on brand new in a new country where you don't have much of savings was a difficult option to choose from. So when I presented this idea to my current company, they said, yes, we're happy to be part of this. So why don't you continue to be in your current role and see if you can do 60-40 split, 60% on the new idea and 40% on the current roles and responsibilities you have. I was the chief marketing officer of this company. In the UK, you call them marketing directors because they still have the old school, managing director, finance director, marketing director. They don't have CMO, CEO kind of functions. So that was a success. I exited that company in 2007, and that's the time Microsoft India hired me to come back and run their marketing, which I did for 5 years. And then 2 years back, I left them and then have started helping Octane scale up and been sort of doing a tour, doing workshops, trying to share my learnings and my experiences, and hopefully inspire some of you to take that offbeat path. So enough said about my journey so far. Now this is Octane. We are a made-in-India product engineering company. We're a product company. And this is a software. Most of you are familiar with SaaS, software as a service. So it's a SaaS service which you can use for deploying your campaigns, promotional campaigns, through digital one-on-one mechanisms, be it email or SMS. So we serve very large clients in India. We have throughputs available of sending out 5 million to 10 million email and SMS per hour. The differentiating factor is we don't do any campaign. We just do opt-in permission marketing campaigns. So it's unlikely you'll be able to track a spam in your email folder, and that wouldn't have come from our servers. We work with leading marketing companies in India, leading marketing teams from companies in India, and they use our platform for their CRM campaigns. When you start something new, one of the things that you will struggle with is to find out what others think about that idea. So creating a listening post is very important. I'll talk about this in more detail. But when you create a listening post, you're able to not only bounce off your ideas, but more importantly, listen to what they have to say. What is the murmur? What is the gossip? What is the conversation? So anytime you want to test your idea or want to get a new idea, the first thing we have to do is open up to listen in and see what's happening around you. So in our space, we found that in 2007, 2008, the baseline data was not available. So email marketing and SMS were seen as spammy media. They were to be used for spamming. And social media was nowhere in the picture in 2008, 2009, 2010. So we said, let's start and let's create our own platform through which we can listen to marketeers' conversations. So we started a group called Octane Research. And then through that, we used to do regular periodic research studies with marketeers in India to find out what's working for them, what's not working for them. We were not pitching Octane. We were listening in. And if you go to octane.in website, for the last 5 years, we've had this beautiful project called Annual State of E-Marketing in India. So actually, every year, we go to marketeers and we ask them this question: what has worked for you in the last 12 months? And what are your plans for the next 12 months? And we put it together in a nice report for the industry, and we share it back with them. So now you have a lot of IMI reports and reports from other associations in India for digital marketing. So the relevance of that to your discussion here is create your listening posts. If you have a new idea which you want to find out how to make this work, you got to have a listening post, many of them actually, into the communities or into the people who will be your users of your product or service. So very important. I'll run through this briefly, and then I'll be open. So these are 3 things we do. Just going to have one more slide on Octane. We have a platform, that's the left box, through which you can do campaigns, transactional alerts, promotional campaigns, blah, 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 blah. And then we have the Octane research, which started out as our effort to find out more on what's happening in online marketing in India. Now, what has happened because of this is that people think we know the stuff, and they ask us for consulting services. So a big chunk of our Octane research footprint is free industry reports, 80% of our bandwidth. But then customers have told us, hey, you are giving me all of this gyan. You seem to know what's working in India. So can you do a custom research project for us, for which you get paid a high premium, because it's a very unique service. So that's the second Octane research. Could be campaign audit, could be inbox reports, could be customer win-back programs, could be welcome programs on email and SMS. A whole lot of those are a fallout of our expertise, which our audience feels that we have in that domain. And the last one is, people have said, we don't have our own databases, but you tell us that you cannot use third-party database. So one thing we don't do in our business is we don't let marketers use borrowed, rented, leased databases. For us, email ID is a trust that you give to a marketer, and only that marketer should talk to you. In that case, what we have done is we have brought brands together, and they barter amongst themselves. So if it's a Airtel's marketer, they can go to PVR and say to PVR that, can I do a custom offer for all PVR frequent users? So PVR doesn't give them the email database. PVR just carries Airtel's promotional campaign for PVR subscribers as part of the newsletters. So that's the Reach Right new brand that we are launching. So how are we doing in terms of our numbers, revenues? So the most important thing here to look for is the curve. If you look at it, from 36 lakhs to 1.93 CR, all numbers are in lakhs. But last year, this year, March, we closed at 7.7 CR. So we are a young company. We are a small company. We're only 55 employees. So that's where we are. So we are a fairly young company, 5 years in existence. We have done 7.7 CR. We're growing 50% year on year, which is not much if you're growing from a smaller base. But the good thing is we do not address, this is very important, we still do not address 85% of the market in India, which is all of spamming. So we only want to do legitimate, good, ethical email marketing. We say no more times even now to business, which you may think is foolish. But that's also part of your startup experience, your ideation. You have to learn to say no. Because if you believe in a certain idea, and if you want to take it to fruition, many a times people will try to consume your idea or subsume your idea or give you tempting offers. And many times you'll have to stand up and say, no, but that's not what we'll be doing. So that's where we are. We are a product company. So we have engineers, we have MBAs, designers. And the joy that it brings when you invite, let's face it, if you have an engineering team, and if you only hire from IITs, and then you make a great product, that's one level of joy. But when you hire from all sorts of colleges, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, when you have people who are going to be working in a corporate environment in a big city for the first time, when you bring in such teams together and then deliver a platform or a product which is world-class, if not the best in business, that gives you a different joy. So that's the joy that we get when we work together. We're in Lado Sarai. We can see the Qutub Minar from our balconies. Yes, we have tried to make it a fun place, but it's always work in progress. But the fun always comes from the stuff we do, which is to break new boundaries. And we are one of the only two companies in India, which has some similar technology. There are a lot of world-class companies outside of India, but in India, we are the market leaders when it comes to permission email marketing in India. So enough of gyan on Octane. So I have 3 broad buckets of conversation with you. So you have an idea, or you think you have an idea. How do you go about getting support for that idea? I have been like you in very large companies, maybe larger than the companies you're currently working in or you worked in earlier, also highly matrixed. Understand matrix structures? You have a reporting boss, and you have many dotted lines. So I've been through many of those experiences. In that case, how do you champion a new idea? You have meetings and reviews. That takes a lot of your time, and just keeping the scorecard green takes up a lot more of your time, project deadlines. Then how do you get a new idea out? So some thoughts, and I would love to have your feedback. If you're keeping time, ma'am, for me, you can just stop me in 40 minutes, because interactivity, getting your feedback is much more important. So the point here is, how do you get a new idea? Very simple, some simple tips, something that has not been done before. Yeah? Something you feel, why hasn't this been done? And you may think it's a small new idea, and your friends may think you're a fool. That's how you start. Actually, more and more people feel you're a fool. Actually, that should give you more conviction to start out and think about it. The second is something that can be improved. You know this works, but I don't think this is being done in the best possible way. I'll give you an example. Classifieds have existed in our newspapers for a long time, right? HT, Hindustan Times. And they also went online. So India Times also went online with classifieds. But look at the category called classifieds. Be it cars, matrimonials, job searches. There are billion-dollar companies just coming out of that same classified. So somebody said, Naukri.com guy said, this doesn't work anymore. Shaadi.com guy said, this doesn't work anymore. So they looked at the same problem, but they approached in a very different fashion. So this is not a new idea. Naukri.com is not a new idea. Shaadi.com is not a new idea. Cardekho.com is not a new idea. But the way it's been mapped, it's been very different, right? So that's the second way of looking at a new idea and saying, can I make a difference there? So for example, if you're working in an application development project, and you're still desktop heavy, and you read about these mobile stories and mobile penetration in India, maybe one of the ideas could be that, hey, can we do something on a mobile app here? I don't know, but that could be one approach you could take. And organize the unorganized. When you go to a fancy MBA school, Ivy League school in America, when you pay $150,000 of just a tuition fee over the next 2 years, one thing you learn very fast, which is to organize the unorganized and then build some value around it. So the fact is, we're living in a very unstructured world, and when you structure it for some experiences, that makes it easier. So pick a niche. You may think, how many users will use the software? When we started out in 2007, every marketeer we went to said, email marketing, it's only spam. I don't have a database. So who will I do email marketing to? You have a database? I said, no. Even if we have a database, we don't sell the database. We are a custodian of the data. They all said, we don't need your software. But that was a niche. We got our first client is futurebazaar.com, and they said, this makes sense. And now, of course, Snapdeal, Myntra, they're all our clients. So the thing here is, pick a niche, which you may think, pick an idea which is a niche, but does it have the scope to scale up? Will it start making impact in the next 3 years, 2 years, to a larger set? 3 trends are changing everything we know about organizations. These 3 broadly are data, devices, digital. Devices, very familiar with the way you use technology, television, cars, computers, washing machines, phones. So that's devices. Data, of course. Anything you touch point these days can be captured. It's all digital. So data is becoming humongous. Do you know that more video is uploaded every 24 hours on YouTube than the last history of mankind in terms of video content we have had? So imagine the kind of data, the big data, the data numbers that's going up. Third is digital. Because it can be archived, this can be put into bits and bytes, it can scale up very fast. So digital disruption, devices disruption, and data disruption, these 3 are changing fundamentally anything we know that exists today. Take phones, take photography. Film photography is dead. Kodak has been wiped out. So there are many such disruptions being caused in the areas you are. So pick one niche and say, how will that impact this area? As long as it will scale. So some things people have, when you go to a VC and pitch your idea, when you go to a venture board internally and pitch an idea, they'll say, toothbrush test. Will this application be used once in a year by somebody to file taxes once in a quarter? Or will this be used like a toothbrush? So there are things you'll get to learn which will help you qualify your idea a bit more, be it in your current product team, engineering team, or the team somewhere else within the organization. So if you have an idea, Does it have the potential to really scale up? You can have the best idea and still fail. Yes, luck and timing does play a part. Do you know the first company in India to sell online, retail online, is not Flipkart. India Bazaar. Have you heard about India Bazaar from Chennai? They started in 2001, and they shut down last year. So amongst all the hype you see about Flipkart and Myntra and Snapdeal and all of them raising money, there's a company which pioneered it. So timing and luck is equally important. So even if you put the best efforts, this is for the first category of people who did something from an idea perspective, didn't get support. It could be that you were ahead of time. It could be that you were not lucky. So that also is very important. So now you have an idea which you think will work. And so how will you go beyond it? How will you get into some shape that can see a larger success out of it? Internally, if you're inside a company, it's very important for you to have stakeholders aligned with you. So I don't know how many of you know how to communicate well in groups, but if you have an idea which you want to pitch internally to your seniors or a venture team inside the business, then you have to learn how to pitch this and get stakeholders online. I'll give you a small tip, which may be important if you're dealing with large teams in matrix structures. So suppose you're given a time on Friday. Come at 4 o'clock and tell us about this project idea you have, and you're building your best deck, your best demos, and there are 5 people in the audience, and you go there and you pitch. It's a 50-50 game. 50% chance you will win, 50% chance you will lose. This could be, by the way, true for even a project management review, where you're going to get a stakeholder review from everybody in the room, and you want everybody to sign on your project plan or vision and say yes. So same thing applies here. So what do? You do not go into that meeting room without getting some people on your side already. So when you're pitching for a multi-million-dollar idea or a marketing plan or a project where you're going to fly out 100 people, 100 CIOs from India to a camp in Dubai, a desert camp in Dubai, which is going to cost $1 million, you don't go by just randomly walking in with your deck, with your presentation. You actually precede this. So there are 5 people, and you know who those 5 people are. Take 1 or 2 of them separately in confidence. Tell them what you're up to. Get their feedback. You may have time to incorporate that feedback before the D-Day on Friday, 4 o'clock, or you may have no time to do it. But when you get up and speak, have you been in meetings where you can see from the first question, this meeting is going to get derailed? And sometimes you'll see this meeting was an easy peasy, very nice, easy meeting. Well, there's a trick into doing this. So the first guy you spoke to, you'll say, well, if you like this so far, when you have spoken to them offline before, you actually tell them, hey, this is my plan. What do you think about it? They'll say, Punit, this is great, but I only like 40% of it. OK, so which part of this 40% do you like? Well, I like the first plan where you're talking about some concepts that are new. OK, good. So when you're presenting the concept slide, you should have that person in the public meeting get up and say, I like this. So there is a way you should learn how to get stakeholders on board that will be relevant to your current jobs. Because you can have the best idea, best project report, best discussion, but when you go to pitch it on that big day, you can be slaughtered mercilessly. And you will agonize over it and say, where am I? What am I doing here? This is the wrong company, wrong set of people, because you didn't prepare for it. So I like this word called divide and rule. I'm pitching for an increment of $5 million in my marketing budget. I'll make a plan. I'll seed it before with some people. Suppose there are 10 stakeholders, different product teams, different geographies. And I'll get up and I'll speak. And I'll tell them, hey, I hadn't had a chance to do one-on-one with each one of you on this plan. But some of you I've reached out to, and I've got feedback from you. So when I start presenting my idea, I've got people who have said, I like this. 3 people who say, I like this in a sequence. The remaining non-believers, they'll shut up. They'll say, if everybody is liking it so much, maybe I don't get it. So it's very important to get stakeholders online, aligned with you. You have an idea, you've incubated some new project, you've been moonlighting someplace, you bring it to the office. Let me honestly tell you, there are more non-believers in this world than believers. So first thing you have to do is get those believers as your stakeholders. It doesn't matter if it's a current project, or if it's a new idea in your current project, or a new idea for a company. Learning that is fairly important. By the way, most of us, if you've been working in corporate worlds for too long, I've had teams which are multi-geography, very diverse teams. I can spot somebody who can be an entrepreneur. It's the ownership, accountability, and doing these things. Most of us live in a very mediocre world. And for us, it's about doing a job and doing it to the right point that you get paid every month salary and you leave for home. That can change. I cannot do in this workshop for you. That change is internal. But if you feel that there's a larger game out there which you want to be part of, there is larger ideation that you want to do, then these points can help. So getting like-minded people, getting believers who believe in change is fairly important. There is this why should I care factor. You may have a brilliant idea, but why should I care about you? Why should your manager care about it? So you have to always find what's in it for them to align with you. Look, we all look for 3 or 4 things in life: fame, money, there's a few more. So look for what will make the other person shine. So for example, if it's your project head, VP engineering, why should he support your idea? What's in it for him? You're going to get all the kudos, but hey, it's his team who can shine. He can be seen. So last week, there is an ex-colleague of mine who used to work for me. He's launched his own book. It's called God's Own Office. James Joseph is his name. And this has been, it's in top 100 non-fiction list as of this week. God's Own Office. All I did in his success, and he mentions my name in his book, is that he wanted to work remotely from Kochi, where he's from, and he was doing this product marketing job from Bangalore and Delhi. But he was highly accountable. He would deliver on time. He was proactive. So I fought a battle internally within Microsoft India to get him to work remotely. So now he's written a book on it. He's left Microsoft 2 years back. And so I feel some pride that I was there as part of his journey. So find out what's in it for them. Product is sales. As a young company, young idea, young manager, young entrepreneur, how do you sell the first idea is very important. And who will buy your idea is equally important. So if you're thinking, I'm a techie, I'll write a best piece of code, and that'll become something, well, you will need some other person along with it to sell that idea. And when you make a new product, and you're thinking, how will I put multi-million dollars behind it to make it a big success? Every week, I'll have an entrepreneur call me and saying, sir, मैंने एक app लिखा है, और 5-4 लोग use कर रहे हैं, Play Store में है, अब उसको मैं आगे 5 million में कैसे ले जाऊँ? I think the argument there is that if you have a great product, that itself is marketing. That itself will get you the PR. Otherwise, you're going to throw money. And that game doesn't work. I know it's being recorded on camera, but the son of the CEO of the leading telecom company in India, he started a big venture with multi-million-dollar office in Gurgaon. It failed. He was throwing money at letting people download his app and use it for messaging. Yeah? So this is fairly important, that what the experience everybody has around your product is your marketing, is your story. So if you have an idea, if you've done a POC, then that POC experience should help you get larger success. When you start selling something new, when you make something new, the first few customers, internal, external, doesn't matter if it's your startup company outside of the current organization or within, the first few stakeholders who like it, they have to say, wonderful. This methodology or this product or this app has made a killing difference in what we were doing earlier. If it doesn't happen, then you can throw money at it to promote it, to make billboards, to make nice fancy brochures, but that'll not scale. It'll give you some success, but the moment you turn off that money, promotional campaign, marketing money, it's going to be flat. I think showing up and delivering is the first thing and the last thing I would say as part of your building up. If you're passionate about something, let's face it, many of us, how many of you have some ideas to do in life apart from what the current job you're doing? Yeah? Yeah? All of us have some ideas. I'll get people who will say, I want to build this, I want to build a hospital, I want to build a school, right? वो build पे ही रहता है. How many of us want to get fitter and better at physically fit and stronger? Yeah, all of us. But where does it figure out in your weekly plan? How many hours you're going to put to it? Like, I want to learn yoga. Thank you, so that's good. But most of us struggle with this. We have plans, we have ambition, we have stated objectives, but what do you do about them? It's not easy. So there is a beautiful book on habits that you should read, saying all of us are victims of habits, slaves of habits. And breaking habits is the hardest thing to do. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-year-old child, 4-year young child, or if you're a 45-year-old professional man. Doesn't matter. The breaking of habits. So showing up and delivering, you may be incubating a new idea on the side. You've told your manager, but what are you doing about it? How often do you update that idea? How often do you come back and saying, I have a POC, I'm going to work for 6 weeks, and come back and show you, but do you show up after 6 weeks? Or does somebody who's near to you asks you, hey, what happened on that one? I do think that whenever you have a new idea, you should share with as many people as possible. That's reverse of the typical thinking that somebody will steal my idea. They may steal your idea, but they cannot steal your execution. So on the negative side, yes, you may be thinking about some algorithm that somebody else can do it. It was so darn easy, then it's not even worth pursuing in the first place. If your idea could be stolen so easily that you share with 5 people and they can copy and do it, then might as well not do it. On the positive side, when you share your journey, when you make stated goals, when you tell your mom, wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm going to go running, she'll have better ideas about how to go about doing it. The passion you have for your idea, it's unlikely anybody else will have it. And if that person moved ahead, left his job, or took a sort of half-baked job, or did something, or went to his manager, sold the idea, and got it done, and you sat there thinking, mera turn aayega, then it was not worth it in the first place. So very personal story. One of the first travel sites in India, first 5 travel sites in India, I was one of the team members which built it. I was working at an IIT. This is 96, September. And we launched something called delegate.com. I was one of the first 10 guys in India to have internet access. And that also through a hacked internet connection for Earnet. There was no sort of legitimate internet connection in India. It was academic research. So we had access to Earnet. And that's how we were on the internet. We launched our first page on geocities.com, delegate.com. And we booked a domain name. A friend of mine in the US booked a domain name. That time, there was no Make My Trip. But then I had an idea, we did something, and that's it. And then my middle-class values of risk-reward heavily weighed in. I had to make a choice to stay in India in 97 or go to Silicon Valley and be part of a $60,000 a year salary on H-1B. So showing up is equally important. So when I meet Deep Kalra, I joked with him. He said, yeah, we were 4 years ahead of them. If we had stayed and done this, who knows? But that's what it is. So will you have such stories to tell to your grandchildren or children? Hey, I had thought of that idea, but somebody else did it. Or would you actually start working on it week after week and start building on that? That's the difference. When you put together a team as a startup or as an incubator within the company, the culture will be very different from what you're used to in large companies. So if you are one of the project managers or leaders in this business, in this company who will be enabling such ideation in the business, then you have to also nurture a different culture, a different bringing together. For example, many of you are here because you may have felt, I have an idea, I want to do something. So maybe keep the same ecosystem, build up some buddy relationships here, and take them to whenever you have an idea. It's easier when you have like-minded people, believers around you, than when you have non-believers. So it needs a different culture. A new company needs a different culture. A new idea around which you put together a team needs a new culture. It cannot be what has happened before. How many times I have seen services companies, very successful ones, leading ones, trying to build products, and they fail. I'm not making any finger pointing here. We all know those companies, including us, including here. We have tried many times to build products. But the culture of a product company, the people who work are very different from a services company. Product company, you're taking a higher risk for a higher reward. Services company, low risk, low reward. Put more people, put product teams together, and you can start seeing your PAT go up, right? So it's a different mindset when you start building product around an idea. So how do you scale up? You've seen first success, you've done a POC, you've shown some good results, and you're getting to be visible inside your business. Then you start building a lot more on product focus and also the team, the culture around it. Let's face it, when you have a new idea, you want people to work on those ideas beyond 8 hours a day. How many hours do you work every week here? 40 hours on paper? 40 hours is the official number, right? 45? Yeah. So there was an interview I read about 2 years back, and the CEO of a large technology company was interviewed, and he said, I have a peculiar problem. Unlike traditional industries, in my software industry, all my capital leaves my office doors at 6:30 in the evening. Now, when you're doing a new ideation, you want to have like-minded people who will burn the midnight oil. If you're going to put 9 hours every day here, or whatever, 8.5, 10 hours every day here, you still need to have an intensity inside, a drive from inside out, which says, I'll go home tonight, write 2 hours more of code, or test something, or research something. So you need a certain culture, a certain set of people, like-minded. So that will give you the product, and a product success will lead to more such people joining that group. So it's a catch-22, but that's the way you scale up. You get the right mind people and say, this is not an 8-hour job. This will be much more intense. I've seen many companies come out of technology teams where weekends they worked on something. They had a hackathon on the weekend. They got together. They bought pizzas. They had sleeping beds, and they just wrote code. And that will not happen if your other stakeholder from your team is thinking about 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. So that's very important. And processes scale up. So 2 of you get together. You write the first code. But now suddenly it's going to be 4 people across 5 locations, or 5 people across 4 locations. So then you need to document it. You'll say, I've written this bit here, archiving it, checking in the code. Please test this part. Now, when you're sitting around the same room, it's very easy. You have a beer or you have a whatever soda, and you yell at them, it gets done. Yaar, wo form check kariyo, code check karo, kuch problem ho rahi hai. Done. But when you have teams now which will work on the same project, you have an idea, you went to your manager, he said, yes, 4 log Singapore mein kaam karenge, 5 log Bangalore mein kaam karenge is pe, aur 3 log Delhi mein kaam karenge. And then what will happen? So processes will help you scale up and put things together. Once you have hiring diversity in your team, I'm not talking about women diversity or people with different preferences. It's about diverse opinions. So some people will be good in design, somebody in coding, somebody in selling the idea. So when you have an idea that you want to take larger and better within the same company or same team or outside, you have to bring in a lot more diverse experiences and not just saying, I'm IT Delhi, and the next guy I will get is from IT. Well, you're going to have a diversity of your team members in terms of skills, experiences, that'll make it enriching. Pitching and winning battles internally, externally. I have a lot more tips I can share with you on how to pitch your idea internally and get success. I shared some of them with you. But this is an equal part of scaling up. You have to continuously gain mind share, visibility. Suppose you're in HCL Tech and you have an idea, you got some initial support. It's upon you to get visibility in the newsletter, get highlighted as a case study, get equal speaker opportunities outside, highlight it here. Maybe at this platform, come and talk about your experience as an employee who had an idea, who got early support. So you have to be the champion of this, both internally and externally. Do not expect your manager or your VC, and in this case, your manager is your VC, is giving you time, resources, and advice. Do not expect them to keep on championing you at all times. It's not a job, so that's fairly important. So I'll stop here because I think we are close to time now. Yeah, why don't I just, I have more slides. I can bore you to death with slides. I'm ex-Microsoftie, so I love PowerPoint. But let me pause here and see what specific questions you may have around stakeholders, around how do you take the first step, how do you do risk-reward analysis, what is a good age to get started, any of those questions, and I'm sure those are the questions you have, but let me hear it from you and make it contextual for you. Otherwise, I have to fill up the next 20 minutes. I have boring slides. Theory.
How do you engage with the market research company? Let's say I have an idea, okay, and before I apply for a POC or something, I want to do some market research. So how do you engage? What are the things you need to keep in mind if you are engaging with the market research company?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think, I don't know if you know it or not, but at Apple, there's no market research department. Did you know this? At Apple, there's no consumer research department. There's no market research department. So it's their intention, it's their idea of what computing should be. And they have been struggling for the last 30 years doing that, right? It was a 5% computing mindshare company. And then with the mobile devices and MP3s, they just took off. So first of all, I don't think you should believe too much in market research, because when you have a new idea, okay, so let me put my product manager hat. When I used to be a product manager, I used to write specs for Oracle 11i field service software, or Siebel software 11i 7 Siebel 7 field service application. So when you go to a customer and you say, sir, you are a support manager, and you do right now phone-based support and you have email support, how important will this be for you to have chat-based support? He says, customers chatting with me? No, 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 no way. You look to Gartner data, they'll say, there's no chat software anywhere in the world. This is, I'm talking about 2000, 98, 99, 2000. So if you go by market research, actually most of us use market research to validate our arguments. But you never get an idea looking at the market research. So number one. Number two, how do you go and pitch? That's a very important thing, because you'll have to believe in a believer. So when you go and pitch, please expect out of 10 people you speak to, 8 of them will think you are a fool, you don't know what it's all about, you're too young, you have no practical experience, you don't know how business works, who will fund it. So you only get maximum 10 to 15% success. Then what you say to them is, if I did this, will you be happy to support me on the journey? So even in the large companies, by the way, when you launch a new product, you don't go and launch the new product. You have something called a beta program. I don't know if you heard about it. So doing betas or betas, if you're in India or if you're in the US, it's beta. It's the language. So beta programs is the biggest way to sign up early adopters. Somebody says, I like your idea, and I'm willing to support it more, but show me something more. Then say, OK, will a blueprint help you, or will a design document help you, or should I knock up the first screen? So for example, at Siebel, I used to build my own screens of what the application would look like in Dreamweaver. And then I would go to my product engineering team and product strategy team and say, this is what it should look like. It wouldn't be anywhere close to what it looked like, but it gave them a direction of where it's going from here. So that's the role you have to perform, which is to say, if you align with me, if you believe in my ability of doing it, then this is what it will look like. I have not seen it as yet, but will you support me on the journey? So that may be one way. So doing a beta may be one way to get people on board.
What was the key point in your mind when you turned to a business? So how you took the risk? Because there was a risk in work because you were already working.
Correct.
And might you are getting good salary.
Correct.
So what was the key point?
Might, yes, absolutely. It's not easy. It's being recorded, so I can't tell you the exact number. When you work for an MNC, you run marketing for them in India, money is least of your worries. It's a very comfortable lifestyle. I think it's just that you feel something is not happening right around you. Most of the ideas, if your gut doesn't say, and how will you know it's the right time, there's no easy answer. But I believe earlier you do it in your career, it is better, because then you can fail and you can keep on going back and keep on doing it. But my experience was that I was very unhappy with certain things I saw around me. And if you switch off the camera, I'll tell you what that was. Being asked to let go of people in your team because there was a global restructuring and 10% people had to be let go. Yeah? So those were some of the things I didn't like. I didn't like the political structure of this entire matrix teams. And I said, I want to be doing something different. So there are many points when you'll have a different gut feel. How do you de-risk it? You can never de-risk it. You can make it safer for you. So one of the things I learned from in the US, I don't know how many of you traveled, but there are people who will ask you for $1. They'll be on the street asking for money, and they'll have funny ways of doing it. So there was this guy who said, why lie? Need a beer? Give me $1. He had this placard in San Francisco where I used to live. So I gave him $1. I said, I love your creative way of getting people to give you money. So we got talking. So I also bought him a beer. And then he said, every dollar you spend keeps you $1 away from retirement. Yeah? So I can make it like, I can change it somewhat saying, every dollar you spend keeps you $1 away from your entrepreneurship or your risk-taking ability. See, I don't have an Audi, whatever, Q3, Q5, Q6, Z7, whatever. So you try to say, well, what will keep me safe and sound if I fail? Can I have basic dal roti in my life? Can I have basic health insurance? Can I pay off the more mortgages you have? I know this is not what your banking company wants to tell you or the ads want to tell you. If you are a heavy consumer and you spend every money you have, every single dollar of salary or every single rupee, then it's going to be difficult for you to get out of this and do something of your own or put some thoughts behind it. But for me, it was just a question of doing something new. And I have always built myself. When I worked for a company, I've conserved my time. By the way, even at the 5 years at Microsoft, I did multiple new things. So I would say that keep that urge alive. Keep yourself exercised in terms of new ideas. And that's one way to go. But you can never de-risk it. If you're comfy and if you're in a nice place, then your appetite to do something new will be low. So you need some hunger. But that hunger shouldn't be at the cost of one day you find yourself sleeping on the footpath of Bandra, because that will be difficult.
So how do you think the capital is the most important part in a business?
Capital is important, absolutely, but capital is not the starting or the end point. Capital is your vehicle that you take to go from one milestone to the other milestone. And nowadays, capital in one way is not available to anybody. At the end, the thing about capital is very interesting. There is a lot more money chasing very fewer deals. There are many deals, many investment opportunities, but they never get even considered. So at one level, if you talk to a VC today or a private equity company, they'll say, we're not getting great business plans, but their emails are full. So the ones which will get funded are far and few, but there is no dearth of capital today. You can crowdsource your capital requirements. You can get funded through government bank loans now. So I think there is an opportunity there not to get worried about, I need huge capital. Of course, if you want to build an aviation company, you need a different level of scale. But most of us are in the services business. We think about software. And in that intellectual property, you can start small and grow. So in our journey also, we have been always struggling. Should we get funded? Should we bring in external money? Should we raise a round of capital? Because all of us want to scale up. For that, you need money. But there's a trade-off. If you get early money in, you lose your agility as an entrepreneur, your freedom as an entrepreneur, or intrapreneur in this case. If you get too much, then there'll be too many restrictions. So for example, if you pitch to your manager and says, HCL would love to do it, here's $1 million, 5 more people, and show me a quarterly report. That could be tricky versus, OK, I'll give you 1 week off or 1 week time every 3 months to do something on your own. So then you get flexibility and time on your time to do things. Otherwise, raising money these days is not very difficult. India has that way changed in the last 10 years, 15 years. Like if you want to raise 50 lakh rupees for a great idea, you can dial 4 people, 2 people, and they'll fund you. There are a lot of people now who are doing angel funding, 5, 10, 15, 20 lakh rupees, without even thinking about a business plan. They'll say, who you are, what have you done, what have you achieved? Good, I'm happy to put money on the table. But yes, if it's a capital-intensive industry, if you want to start a new bank, new airlines, it's a different, it's a different place.
Where do you get these guys?
Sorry?
Where do you get these guys actually?
Where do you get these guys?
Like where do you get this VC?
Sure. So there are multiple ways. I think you can go to conferences and meet them. If you follow certain media in India, I think one of the things I like to caution you against is there's a word in the US, and I'm going to borrow it for this conversation, is something called entrepreneurship porn. There's so much being written about entrepreneurship that everybody thinks nowadays you have an idea, you can make the next Flipkart. Flipkart journey is littered with thousands of entrepreneurs who haven't been able to make it a great success. Now, having said that, even a failed entrepreneur learns a lot. You absolutely will become wiser. And when I hire, and we hire, not as great numbers as you guys do, but we still hire, we double up every year in terms of our team strength. I am looking for people who have done good things on their own and failed. So to answer your question, I think if you get a mentor or get some early sponsors, that may be the one. The Angels network is a great one. Angels get you access to the VCs. You can meet any VC in India through LinkedIn or through an email connect, but will that lead to the result you're looking for? No. So doing something as part of a team or getting an angel investor who says, I'll put the first 10 lakh rupees or first 20 lakh rupees together for you, is the best way to get started, and they'll open up conversations. Because these guys, in their own domain, they're rock stars. The leading VCs, they're rock stars. Wherever they go, they'll get people. But the best way to do is not to send your proposal or plan by email. Please do not send unsolicited emails to them and saying, here's my business plan. Most of the VCs love it when the plans come to them referred by somebody. It's the same human psyche, right? We all fight for the same thing where there's huge interest, right? And we all don't want to be part of the club that wants you to be part of the membership. Same thing here. So VCs look for referrals. And most VCs will put money only in, if you do analysis of cold calling versus referrals, you would say huge percentage, I wouldn't have the numbers, but huge percentage of investment that VCs do purely come through referrals. So their cold calling may not work. So I would say get a right angel, talk to people, bring mentors. And the good thing about entrepreneurs is that unlike corporate guys, like erstwhile me and now you, if you write an email, I mean, we were notorious at Microsoft India. You could drop us an email, nobody would write back to you. We were busy looking at our scorecards, political battlefields, review calls, 2 o'clock in the morning conversation with somebody in the US, saving my job, next promotion, how can I go back to Seattle to head a product division in a company? All of that kept us busy. So if a poor MBA from Asian Institute of Management wrote us an email saying, I'd like to work in Microsoft sometime, can I speak to you guys or speak to you? Saying, you're right. Versus entrepreneurs, I'll challenge you that if you dropped 100 emails to big corporates like HCL and Wipro, or Microsoft or HP, and you get some responses back from those guys, versus write to an entrepreneur, it's more likely that you'll get responses from the entrepreneurs. So if you want to get inspired and be connected, meet fellow entrepreneurs. Go and talk to them. Meet entrepreneurs, talk to them. I mean, HCL is a great example of great entrepreneurship. It may not be structured with ideapreneur, but if you look at Sanjay Kalra, if you look at CPG, CP Gurnani, if you look at even Vineet, they're all part of great examples of getting great support. I used to be in an IIT, and HCL was a sister company in mid-90s. HCL had this great knack of putting money on the young punts, MBA, 5 years, chalo, kuch karo. HCL Comnet started, I was in an IIT, so I've known Vineet from those days. So when you see it from a distance, HCL has had that culture. I am not sure if that still continues or if there's still more of it, but I've seen it from a distance. So to answer your question, I think it's about creating positive networks, and you have far more access to such resources than you thought it would be. But please, just because you have a VC's email ID or somebody's email ID, don't send them your plan. The best you should do on an email address is ask for a cup of coffee conversation. And that most people will give you. I think I'd put it somewhere that, is it your homework or is it my homework? When you ask me for a conversation or a cup of coffee, it's easy for me to accept, versus when you send me a business plan or when you send me a resume saying, find me a job. So if you don't send me a business plan, don't send me a resume and say, can I come by and catch a conversation with you or a cup of chai? That happens. I hadn't time to go through it more. Breakfast meetings are the most underutilized assets in any executive's calendar, including the CEO of your company. So lunches are very busy. Evenings are almost tied up for reviews and travel. But breakfast briefings, conversation from airport to the hotel, taxi ride, those are most underutilized assets for any executive. I have managed to create opportunities in getting access to a CEO of a large media company. He came to London, and I got hold of his itinerary from his assistant, who I was following up for a long time. And I rode in the same cab as the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar company from India, and we had a 45-minute conversation. I had not known him earlier. So when you align, if you said to me, Punit, I saw your tweet, you're going to be driving from Bombay airport to wherever in Bombay, can I catch up that time with you? So there are ways you can create opportunities. I've given you a very long-winded answer. My apologies.
Email marketing or cold calling?
Sorry?
Email marketing or cold calling?
I wouldn't do neither. I would follow them on Twitter. Cold calling is dead. We have so much to share today that there are many ways you can create. But adding LinkedIn network is fairly important. Your LinkedIn network If you bear with me for a minute, I'll just show you one slide because that's very important. Your soft assets on your profile, which are not the degrees you carry or the score that you had in the exam, but the tweets you do, the sharing you do, is far more important. When you come for an interview to me or my company, I quickly go and check while you're waiting outside and the HR sends me the resume and the form they've filled up. I can quickly check your cloud score. I can quickly check how good are you on Twitter. I can quickly check you're on Facebook. Yes, we have access to all your information, unfortunately. But I do look up LinkedIn. How many people are referring you? If you've recommended somebody, is he in return recommending you back? Then it's a 0-0. So if somebody asks you for a recommendation, don't ask for a recommendation back. Some things, I'll just share with you a quick slide. Maybe I can email you later on this. Just one here. Here. Soft power assets. Good thing about hard power assets is they're finite, they're limited. How many degrees can you do? Soft power assets, your image, reputation, alliances, networks, all of that is infinite. So anybody you meet for an interview or they come to you for an interview, do you add them to your LinkedIn? You do. But how many of you do? So even if you're a student, for example, I'll encourage you to add me to your LinkedIn and just say, we met at HCL Tech, ideapreneur. So having these weak links, plenty of them is far more important. Cold calling, not. But if you're meeting in a group, adding them to your network is one way to amplify your social soft power assets, your reputation. How many people will speak up? Like, for example, I'll still get referral calls for people who are no longer in Microsoft. I'm no longer in Microsoft. But when they quote 3 years of their time with me as their manager, I still get referral calls from leading companies. So if this guy's applying for a job in Germany, will you have half an hour for us to speak? So your reputation carries far and a lot more beyond you think from your current role. I think we are up on time, or can we take, or more time?
There are more questions.
How the name came in your mind, Octane to Octane?
So there is an official story, there's an unofficial story. Which one do you want to know? So there was a company called Octane CRM in the US, which got bought over by a larger company. So I always liked this name called Octane. So that's how we were looking for a brand neutral name which should have global appeal, but shouldn't look like, So we wanted to look for a name, and that's how Octane started. It sounded like, for example, the idea was when somebody picks up the phone and talks to you, sometimes you can't figure out what the guy said. What's the name? So when you right now call and I say to you, hi, this is Octane, this is much more easier to comprehend on the phone. Many times you have names of companies and you can't figure out what that company name was when on the phone. That was the starting point. But when we had to write our story of what the brand is all about, when you have to do the official story, we found number 8 is pretty good, actually. When you make a dome, it has to be octagonal. So there are a lot of places from where we got inspired for new stories. Octane is the rating of the fuel. Higher octane means higher fuel rating, better fuel rating, lower octane rating. So now we can tell you all the official stories. But it doesn't matter. What the website does, or what the design is, or what the first logo is, doesn't matter. It's the experience that counts.
Do you want to give some more suggestions for service sector? Means you have talked about coding, all that.
Correct.
Means generating an idea in a service-based project is a different thing than a development, like if you are doing coding and like that.
Yeah.
So what is your suggestion? So that what is the point? What can be done for that?
Like the internal projects.
Yeah, correct. So one of the things that general trend is that the products are becoming more and more service-oriented, and services are becoming more and more productized. So when a telecom company sells you a plan every month, what is it? Is it a service or a product? It's a service masquerading as a product. When you buy a plan for 299 rupees and it'll give you 5 GB of data every month, what is it? It's a service into a product. So that's one space where every service is trying to get productized if it can be reused in ways more than one. If it's a custom thing only done for one guy and that's the way it's going to be, it may be different, but if it's going to be reused or there could be more customers, then as a product designer, I would try to design something around it. So for example, we used to do projects for enterprise integration. We used to write code between enterprise applications and CRM applications, custom code. So one way was that we would say we are doing enterprise integration projects, and you can come to us, and you have Oracle apps in the back office, and you have CRM in the front office. We can write kludgy code, and we can integrate them. No APIs, but custom codes, right? Then we said we launched this into a product. So now we call it Oracle Connectors. Because we had done some 12 such implementations. So we called it Oracle Connectors. We wrote spec sheets around it. What will Oracle Connector do? Then we found that we got a lot more business inquiries. It became easier for our internal teams also to organize around that part. So one suggestion is look for something which can be productized. And it may still be intangible like a telecom minute, but customers start seeing it more in a comprehensive manner, that this is a product. It has attributes. You can have set up expectations around it. You can have SLAs on it. The second part would be things I had shared with you. If it doesn't work right now, can it be made better? So that could be a service element, right? How can you make it better? Then, for example, in our business, we found that companies who use our platform, large companies, they would suddenly one day say, we don't want to work with you anymore. So we said, what's happening here? So we used to do project reviews on a monthly basis with these companies, but we call it new now. We call it into a brand name. We call it Service Excellence Review. So we made a new product called SCR as Octane right now, which we now sell as an additional service to clients. And they're willing to pay 60,000 rupees per SCR meeting. And those SCRs are conducted with much more fanfare. We bring donuts. The CMO of the company, the customer company will be there. Will be 3 of us. There'll be a Skype call. So we just organized that project management meeting, which used to be always at customers' whims and fancies. We used to never be able to proactively plan it. We actually make money on it now, but we do it in a much better way. So now when we sell a contract, multi-year contract for email platform sales, we actually bunch in SCR as a 60,000 rupees per month offering. We were doing it anyway, but giving it a structure, giving it a format, what to expect, what not to expect, how will this be of value, actually gave us new revenue stream. And the customers are happier because now one of the directors is in the SCR through a Skype link or in person. And the customer says, wow, this is very good. This is the best. So one of the customers said to us, this is the best of Octane coming to meet me in my office once in a month for an hour and a half. It was happening earlier also. But the perception went up. Our revenues went up. My team, which does service delivery now, get paid for how many SCRs they sign up on. So we just productized it. And now it's part of our collateral. So when we go and sell, we say, which is the other company in India who will do SCRs for you? They'll say, what is SCR? Service Excellence Review. We benchmark your performance of the campaigns in last 1 month against the best in the industry and the best globally. We were doing it anyway earlier, but that was driven by reactive opportunities. So some ideas, I don't know if I have been able to address your question, but you could try to productize it. That could be one way to differentiate. But it's a difficult one. All right, one last question? No?
Yeah, so it's just, I think on the other side of the line, is there anything successful entrepreneurs miss about a job?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, the biggest thing you'll get hurt is professional ego. Every day, every moment. I work in an office which was very different. I used to fly business class between US and India every 3 months. I used to have BMW Series 7 wait for me outside the Bombay airport. And I have to look for a cab. I used to travel at a very short notice. I didn't care about the fare on the ticket. Actually, I would delay my decision to buy a ticket till I was very sure about the client meeting. I used to get fancy invites to the best seats of the fashion week in Delhi or internationally. I would travel globally, and I would get invited to beautiful Amici concerts and very expensive experiences. I would go for my annual jaunt, and I would meet Eminem in person. So those those privileges gone. There are people I have to work with and I have to get work done as customers. I won't even hire them in my company. If I was in Microsoft, I won't even look at the resume saying, you, भाग जा. But अब उससे बात करके, उसको sell करके, उसको, sir, give me work. So professional ego will kill you every minute. And the longer you've stayed in a full-time corporate job, deeper the professional ego, right?
And how you keep aside your ego? What was the key point?
So I'll tell you the other side, which is beautiful, because how many times has it happened to you that you've had a great lunch with your team members, and you come back for a project review, and your eyes open but dozing off? I can tell you, whenever I've been an entrepreneur, actually for me it's most of my career, even in companies, I've never had that issue. When the meeting is happening and something great is being discussed that's close to your heart, you never lose attention. So that's one thing when you own something, maybe I'm an outlier, maybe I'm a weirdo, but even at larger companies, I used to be very passionate about what I used to do. So I would fight and I would be always taking pangas with everybody, but I felt that what I was doing was worth my time. So actually, my credo is, if it's not worth your time, don't do it. But if it's worth your time, make it your own experience and do it well. So the first thing, ma'am, is professional ego. It just kills you. I used to get invited to all speaker slots, keynote addresses, they've all gone. Now I go to CEO, so I'll give a very different example. Reliance, I used to know the CIO, group CMO, I used to know right-hand man of this guy, left-hand man of this guy. Those all things are, so good thing is I was aware about them. So one thing to do, my last talking point to you is, on your business card, you have a name, you have a logo, you have an address. How many of them will know you if you didn't have that logo? So as a conscious effort, in my social circle, in my professional circle, when I used to go to these nice parties and everywhere, I used to tell them, do not say I am running marketing at Microsoft. Because then Punit Modhgil is gone, is lost. When you say, hey, meet my friend, he's the marketing head at Microsoft, the person doesn't register it's Punit Modhgil. It's gone. So I underplayed the fact that I was having a very important and big role in a nice MNC where I had all the comfort. So how much of personal brand can you build? I would say HCL Tech is no less. It can overwhelm your personal brand. So how much of your personal brand which you will build? And coming back to this, soft power assets are your personal brand. So that's fairly important. I'll give you an example. I always answered anybody who reached out to me on LinkedIn, despite my 24/7 job at Microsoft. I gave innumerous cup of coffee conversations in my office to anybody who wrote to me saying, I would love to work in MNC, I have an idea, can I come by and talk to you? I would say, yes, I have a busy day, can we do it at 5:30 in the evening, or I'm going to have lunch in my cafeteria, please join me for lunch. I would have forgotten the count. None of my colleagues did. And they have the same question. I'm glad you asked this question. Most of my friends asked me, how did you do it? Because I always made sure that I was not dinging Microsoft as a brand or company. Those were my first interests. But I always made sure that I was not known as a Microsoft guy. Because if you're known as a Microsoft guy, when you don't have that logo on your resume, on your business card, will they respect you? And I'll tell you where I learned this. Last 5, maybe 10 seconds. I was lucky I was picked by CEO of NIT, Vijay Tharani, co-founder, to be his business manager. I used to be doing a role line function. And we did a project together, 15 of us with his office, and he liked me. So he picked me up and said, you'll be my business manager. We used to call it E at that time, for next 2 years. Minimum 1 year, maximum 2 years. And I said, what am I doing? It's a wrong place to be. So when I went to his office, second day, he said, let's sit down and have a conversation. I said, tell me. He says, you are a shadow CEO of this company. And IT was larger than Infosys that time in India, software exports. I'm talking about 94, yeah, 94, 95. So he said, there are people who will respect you for your power and access. But when you leave this job within an IT and you have to go back to your line function, some other role. So when you've done this role and you go back to your line function, will they wait for you with stones in their hands? or will they have new respect for you? Very difficult one to do. You're performing in CEO's office. You could lagao danda. And this was executive vice presidents. Like Arvind Thakur is now the CEO of NID Technologies. So he was a vice president, right? All of these guys were there. So you could actually kill them with the power that you had. I had a corporate credit card with no limit, no questions asked for my personal expense or professional expenses way back in '94, right? I was EA to CEO of NIT, Vijay Tharani, and Sanjay Kalra, who left Mahindra Satyam as, I think he was Tech Mahindra CEO. He was the executive assistant to Mr. Shiv Nadar's office, to Mr. Shiv Nadar. So that's when I gained this knowledge that you have to be more than the logo you carry or the role you carry on your resume. So this is fairly important. This has helped me go beyond the fact that I do not have networks of engineering colleges. I'm not an IIM Ahmedabad batch of 76, but I can bet my money, my soft power assets are no less than IIM Ahmedabad batch of 76 or whatever, 85 or 2010. So that's a very good question. And when you prepare yourself for taking that step, that's the first thing that'll kill you, is your professional ego. In fact, speaking to a friend in Bangalore at Microsoft, discussing an idea, and he said, I'm going to leave my job in the next 3 months, and I'll do this. The first person to oppose him in his family was his 16-year-old daughter. And you know why? Because she has plans to study in America. And she knows very well that if dad leaves Microsoft job and goes to America, there goes her education funded by her dad in America. So the biggest, strongest opposition you'll get sometimes is within a family. You've been a most wonderful audience. Keep in touch at Modhgil on Twitter and, of course, on LinkedIn. Thank you for your time.